Hi guys, welcome to Facebook Live Baking for Kids with me, Miss Jen. Great to see all of you. And today we're going to be doing a no-bake mint chip pie. So a lot of times when we're baking with kids, I try to do no-bake to make it easier. That way we don't have to use the oven. And that it's a little bit easier when we're working with the little ones. So here we go. A couple of announcements. I am not at the library right now for various reasons with doing this particular baking episode. So I'm not wearing my mask. Of course, if you were in our building, we would ask that you wear your mask. And I do if you see me. I work at the main branch in Kids Space. And a couple other really exciting things. Registration for our January and February programs opened yesterday. So please feel free to hop on our website. You can call the youth department and we can help you get registered for programs for January and February. We've got a lot of exciting stuff coming up, things you probably know already. Lots of great preschool story times. Usually there's some dance parties with Miss Cindy. For elementary, we've got STEAM and Kids Explore. We've got a new drop-in program called Curious Kids Club. We've got coding, as we always do. So we've got a lot of great stuff. You can check out our website, gailborden.info, to get more information. And speaking of programs, the holidays are coming. Winter break is almost here, everybody. So we've got a couple of things that were not necessarily in our newsletter that we have some slots for still. A lot of our programs fill up quickly. So we have a snowman drawing class that's going to be held at the main branch on December 29th. And we have a coding program with Miss Nikki the 28th and 29th. So there's some really cool programs coming up that I think you would really enjoy. And we actually have spots open. So Christmas is done. If you celebrate Christmas, what are we going to do with the kids? Why don't we go to the library? You can do some programs or at least drop in and see us. So we'd love to have you guys come in. Okay, so on to the recipe. It is no-bake mint chip pie. It looks a lot like mint chip ice cream, which I am a big fan of. And like I said, I like no-bake because we're just going to work with the microwave a little and then otherwise just some kitchen tools. Baking is really fun. We're in the holiday season, so I enjoy baking year-round. That's why I enjoy doing this program. But I especially love baking for the holidays. And we've talked to some of the kids in some of our programs. Maybe you have some special holiday foods or seasonal foods, if not holiday foods. We're getting the cold weather. I know it was 60-something yesterday, but soup is fun in the winter. Cocoa. We've had some big debates about marshmallows versus whipped cream with our cocoa. So we're entering that time of year where we've got a lot of different options and possibilities and fun stuff with baking. So let me talk about some of the ingredients that we're going to need. You are going to need Oreo cookies. We love Oreos, right? So Oreo cookies. I already put mine in a Ziploc bag because we're going to crush the Oreos. So that's one ingredient. You need 5 tablespoons of butter. A lot of times with baking, they'll say unsalted, salted. A lot of times they say unsalted. I've used both. I don't really notice much of a difference personally. So if you have a preference, that's fine. But 5 tablespoons of butter. 1 brick, as I like to call it, or 1 package or 1 container, 8 ounces of cream cheese. Mini chocolate chips. If you have the big ones, that's fine. Again, I'm pretty flexible with my baking. Baking can be sometimes, especially in the oven, a little more exact, like rising of breads and cookies, but something like this, we have a lot of flexibility. So mini chips is what the recipe calls for. That's what I'm going to use. If you don't have mini chips, you could do big chips. It won't really matter. 1 container of Cool Whip, unless you want to do real whipped cream, which we'll talk about later. Powdered sugar, and then Andes mint candies for garnish. But I've done this recipe a couple times, and I do think it adds something to the recipe. It looks nice too, but I think it really adds something to the flavor. Okay, so the first step that you want to do is crush these Oreos. We are going to be making an Oreo crust, essentially. And if you are looking to save time, you can usually buy Oreo crusts in the store. I've seen them, I've used them before. Usually it's easier to find like a graham cracker crust, but you can definitely find Oreo crust too. So the recipe says to use a food processor. Again, definitely easier to do that, and you might get like cleaner, cuter, nicer shredded crumbs to make your crust. But I just think with the kids, it's kind of fun to let them mess with the bag. It's not that messy because, oops, if you seal it, which I forgot to do, if you seal it, then you're pretty safe as far as mess goes. Now with the Oreos, the one challenging part is the white filling, but it's okay. We're making a crust. It's not that big of a deal. And I just didn't want to turn on my food processor and be really loud during this. We are going to use the hand mixer, but it won't take very long, in a couple minutes. So maybe you have some favorite cookies, candy that you bake for the holidays. You have holiday traditions. I mean, we've had quite a few holidays already, and of course we've entered that holiday season of lots of really cool winter holidays. So I'm really crushing this up, and I'm going to need it smaller. So in a second, I'm going to walk over here and use my rolling pin and crush it some more. You could also use a can. I've done that before. You might have seen that on a previous one with graham crackers. So we're really flexible now, whatever you got. If you've got the food processor and you want to do that with your kids, or a stand mixer, that's totally fine too. While I'm doing that, before I go to the rolling pin, I have a small container. This is called a ramekin. And I'm going to cut my butter into here, and then we're going to microwave it just to melt it, because that's going to be part of the crust with the Oreos. So let me do that. I find when you cut butter that's fairly firm, it was in the refrigerator, if you cut it into smaller pieces, it melts easier and nicer. That's what I've found, so that's what I like to do. So I'm going to cut it up just into like pat-sized pieces, which, by the way, I should have said this at the beginning too. First thing I always do is wash my hands absolutely before I start cooking or baking. So I did do that right before I signed in with you guys. Okay, so I'm going to microwave this, not for very long, maybe 15 seconds. But we do want it microwaved completely, melted completely, so that it can make the nice firm mix with the Oreos to make a nice firm crust. I'm also going to grab a bowl. So that we have something to put the Oreos and then the butter in, and then we're going to end up putting it in our pie plate. Which brings up a good point. A couple other tools. I have a scraper, because we're going to be doing some folding. I'm a big fan of folding with baking. And then I have a 1 cup measuring cup, and I have a 1/4 cup. And I have 1/4 teaspoon. And I can't remember if I said this or not. 2 other ingredients I might not have mentioned. Mint extract, otherwise we wouldn't have a mint pie. And green food coloring. The green food coloring is totally optional. I heard an interesting expression yesterday. You do eat with your eyes, which is true. So I think a lot of us, when we hear mint, we think green. So if you'd like, you can have that or not. Okay, I'm going to check on the butter. It's not quite done. So I'm going to do 15 more seconds and let that melt. And then I will crush the Oreos a little more. And then as we are crushing the Oreos, we will mix them with the butter, and we will pat it into a pie pan. And then this is actually going to go in the freezer and set and get like firm and solid while we make the filling for the pie. Okay, much better. So there's still a little bit of solid butter, but it's so melted that the heat from the melted butter already will take care of it. So I'm just going to stir this really quick. This is a nice pie because it has some flexibility. You don't necessarily have to add the mint. You could probably do some melted chocolate instead Now I will say, because we're using cream cheese, it kind of has a cheesecakey slight taste. You definitely can taste the cream cheese. So keep that in mind. But I mean, Cheesecake Factory restaurant, right, has 50 flavors of cheesecake. So you really can't go wrong with cheesecake either. But you could try all different ones. You could do orange. There's all sorts of extracts. There's raspberry extract. There's almond extract. So it's really up to you. I just chose mint because when I think of the months of like December, January, I think of candy canes and peppermint. And I thought it would be fun to do. And I love chocolate. Anyone who knows me knows I love chocolate. So it sounded like a good combination to me. Okay, so my butter's melted. I'm going to set that aside for a minute. And I'm going to take my rolling pin now over here and just try to crush these Oreos a little more. And again, I find too, even though my kids are older now, when they help you cook, it makes a big difference in their willingness to eat what you are serving. So if you find you have eaters that aren't too enthused, maybe you can get their buy-in and see if they'd like to help you prepare something, cookies or dessert. And if that's a success, you could try cool side dishes or a main course with their assistants and just kind of see if you can get them to maybe be willing to try some things they weren't. I know I've also said this before, but I'll say it again. Baking is amazing because it's social. So you're hanging out with your kids, your family doing that. There's math involved, there's science involved, there's reading involved. So you've got a lot of great different skills that you're using, but in a fun and natural way that's also a life skill, and you get to eat the end product. So if that's not a great way to learn, I don't know what is. Okay, this is looking pretty good. The white filling, again, for the Oreos caused a little bit of stickiness, but that's okay, because it's a crust, right? So I want it to kind of stick anyways, and that's kind of the point of the butter, too, just kind of help it form. If you didn't have a round pie pan for some reason, I'm thinking you could definitely use like a square baking pan, too. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to open it and see how it looks. See how crumbly it is, and I'll show you guys. Okay, so it's getting there. It's still a little firm. I'm going to do just a little more with the rolling pin, and then we're just going to go for it. And like I said, this would be much faster in the food processor, which is fine. If you have a lot of cool kitchen tools, I have some too. I'm just not using them all today. Go for it. But if you want to get your kids a workout, I don't know if any of you saw Miss Nikki and I did a steam butter and bread. We made butter and bread for family steam because there's, again, like I just said, a lot of chemistry going on, science with baking especially. And Miss Nikki made butter. All she took was heavy whipping cream and put it in a glass jar, and she shook it. And it took a long time. So you can definitely get a workout in, too. Okay. So we're just going to go for it. So I have my Oreo crumbs, and I'm going to dump them into my bowl. Some of it will stick to the sides of the bag. That's okay, because of the white filling, the middle of the Oreo. So if you use the food processor, you wouldn't have that, but that's not a problem. Okay, so here is my, looks like dirt. There's my Oreos. I'm going to pour in my 5 tablespoons of butter into the Oreo to make our crust. And then I'm just going to mix it. It looks, you know, liquidy now because of the butter. Make sure you guys can see that. But this will help. And then when we put this in the fridge or freezer, that butter is going to harden again, right? There's some more chemistry. coagulate, thicken up, and make a nice firm crust. This part has the potential to be a little messy because we're going to press this into the pie pan, but that's okay because messy is fun, right? So, okay, so we got that going. I'm going to scroll down really quick and make sure comments. Oh, I see some comments. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I see Brian is here. Hi, Brian. Thanks for joining us. And I see Natalie and Griselle. Hi, guys. Okay, so I'm going to put this now into my pie pan. So like I said, this is a glass one. There's 8-inch, there's 9-inch. So there's different options. But it's not, again, I'm not fussy about that. It kind of just go with what you got. Especially if you're limited on space and don't have, the space to have a bunch of different things. So first I'm going to dump it all in just to get it started. I want as much of this Oreo goodness as possible. And I'll show you. I'll bring it closer and zoom in. Okay. And now I'm going to just use my hand, actually, and pat it down. So I'll show you guys what I'm doing. So I'm just going to, and again, it's going to get a little messy because this is kind of sticky. That's okay. And you can even use your whole palm to kind of push it up the sides too. A crust can, always be on the bottom. Push it up the sides of the pan too. And we want to do the crust first because then we're going to put it into the freezer and give it some time to firm up. So, okay. So there is the crust. Okay, let me wash my hands really quick because they are all buttery now. Okay, so this is done, so I'm going to pop it into my freezer. So let me do that really quick so it can sit and we can continue on with the pie. Okay, crust is done. One thing out of the way. So now we need to make the filling. So for the filling, we need a fairly large container. So I have a fairly deep glass bowl. And you're going to need your cream cheese to start because we need to whip this into a much smoother, easier filling. So I'm going to do that. So I'm dumping the cream cheese into my bowl. Toss this away. And this is where we're going to be using our hand mixer. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier. This would be a pretty difficult step to get away from. So this is a hand mixer, meaning I can just hold it in my hand to operate. You might have a stand mixer. That's a much larger mixer that sits on your counter usually all the time. You can use either one. It doesn't matter. But essentially what we're going to do is make like a cream cheesy. So it's the cream cheese, but we're going to add some powdered sugar and some other ingredients, which I'll talk about here, to make the filling. Okay, so we have the crust done. So now we have the Oreos and butter taken care of. We have our cream cheese, and I'm going to add 1 1/4 cups of powdered sugar. So here's my powdered sugar. We're going to add that to this bowl. That's why I chose a deeper bowl, because if not, and we're going to start slow. I've learned this, you guys, from doing baking for a long time. If you go too fast with like a fairly firm cream cheese and powder, it's going to go, right? And it's going to make this huge cloud. So we need 1 1/4 cups of powdered sugar to help sweeten this cream cheese. So usually what I do to level dry goods, like flour, sugar, etc., is put it in the bag and then use a little butter knife. So there's that. The 1 cup's a little trickier. I'm going to see if it'll fit. It does fit. Fill that up. So I've got it filled most of it. I'm going to add a little more, just pour it in. This is a lot of powdered sugar, you guys, but cream cheese, you know, is not sweet really at all. So it does help add a nice level layer of sweetness to the pie. So there's our 1 cup, and that's going in as well. Okay, so you want to use the mixer and do the cream cheese and the sugar first, powdered sugar. So I'm going to turn that on in a second, and it is loud, but it won't take too long. You can definitely get your cream cheese out because if it comes right from the fridge, it's going to be really firm, really hard, kind of like butter out of the fridge. So you can leave it sit out for a little bit, or you can microwave it for a little bit to soften it a little. So once it softens a little, it's a little easier to work with. Okay, so I have a fairly deep bowl, and we have the cream cheese and the powdered sugar. So one cube, 1 brick of cream cheese, the 8 ounce, and the 1 1/4 cup of powdered sugar. I'm going to turn on my mixer on low to start. I'm actually going to kind of do this too, just to kind of smush it, mix it a little before I even turn it on, and then turn it on. And I'm going to hold it down, and I'm going to try to really get that powdered sugar incorporated, mixed in, before I go on a higher speed. Okay, now it's fairly mixed in. So I've turned up the speed of the mixer a little bit. And as you can see, it's totally sticking to my beater. So that's okay. We're going to just use the knife. Use that to get it back in the bowl. All right, so I've gotten a lot of it off. So now I'm going to turn it back on again just for a couple minutes or so. And this has softened quite a bit. It's almost like the consistency of frosting if you buy like a jar of frosting. And then I can tell it's coming away from the beater now, which is good. Let me bring that over and show you. So this essentially looks like whipped cream or frosting in your bowl. So that is just at this point the powdered sugar and the cream cheese. But we're going to add a couple things now. So we need the peppermint extract and the food coloring. So here's the thing with me with peppermint extract. The recipe calls for, let's double check, a 1/2 teaspoon. I love peppermint. I love mint and chocolate together. I find that peppermint extract's pretty strong flavor and kind of, I don't want to say artificial, but it can be almost like toothpastey mint kind of. So I always start with less than the recipe calls for. So when I tested this, although it says a 1/2 teaspoon, today I'm going to use a 1/4 teaspoon. And I think I've said this before, you can always start with less and add. You cannot subtract it back out. So if I put accidentally a teaspoon in and I was like, whoa, that is so minty. No, I don't like it. It's too late if it's mixed into the cream cheese. But if I do a 1/2 teaspoon, I'm like, you know what? I would like more mint. It's not minty enough. I can add another 1/4 and another 1/4. Same thing with putting something in the oven, right? If it says 30 minutes, I usually do a little bit less time. Everybody's oven is different anyways, to see if it's done or not. And almost always for my particular oven, things are done faster than the package says. So I like to do a little bit of less is more. So I'm going to just do a 1/4 teaspoon of the mint extract. So we have the mint extract and my little 1/4 teaspoon, which is not much at all, right? But you do taste it, but it's a little more subtle. And it comes out in drips actually, which is nice as far as not overfilling. Okay, there's a 1/4 teaspoon. Okay, the fun one is the food coloring. I love food coloring. I love dyeing different chocolates or frostings or cookies. So it said 5 drops. This is really just how green you want it. Okay, that was about 5. It might have even been a little more because I'm getting, as you can see, toward the bottom of my my food coloring. So let me turn it on again just to get it blended nicely. So we're going to go back to the hand mixer for a second to incorporate the mint and the food coloring. I can smell the mint. I wish you guys had smell vision, or if you're doing this at home, you will smell it as soon as you start mixing this, which is good. That's what we want. Okay, so now look, we've got our green frosting. And it's minty too. So we've got this mint and green frosting, so that's ready to go. So there's a few more ingredients. This is where we're going to fold in the Cool Whip. So I'm going to open the Cool Whip in a minute. A few things about folding. There's even been jokes about TV like, what is folding? So folding, you usually want to use a spatula. And it's a very gentle turning. And a lot of times we do it gently, or we say gently, because you have air you've created by mixing things up. And if you are rough with it and stir really hard, all the air is going to come out. It's going to just collapse. It's going to go flat. So you kind of gently scoop from the bottom and flip, bottom and flip. And you can do that with a lot of different things about the spatula. And this is a silicone, which works really nice as far as stuff not sticking. Now, the other thing, and I want to read it to you so I get the right amounts. If you're not a fan of Cool Whip, I like Cool Whip and I like what I call real whipping cream or heavy whipping cream. You can use either one in this recipe. I've tested it a couple times and I've used both. So I've done the Cool Whip version and I've done the whipping cream version. So for the whipping cream version, we're going to pause for a minute. I'm going to explain just briefly. You would not be doing the Cool Whip at all. You would be using heavy cream. So you would buy heavy cream at the store instead. Let me see if I have any. I can show you guys. I do. So this says heavy whipping cream. And that's how you make whipped cream and how you make butter from scratch, like Miss Nikki and I did for Family Steam. So you would use the real whipping cream, but it is not sweet at all. Cool Whip is at least sweet. So then because of that, this recipe will tell you to add a 1/4 cup of sugar and a teaspoon of vanilla extract. So what you would do is use, definitely, you could use a hand mixer. A lot of people use their stand mixer. You're going to use a totally separate bowl. I like to put my bowl for making whipped cream in the fridge ahead of time, or even the freezer. The colder, the better. And the beaters too. But you're going to pour the whipping cream in and get it going. And then add your sugar pretty early on and your teaspoon of vanilla. And you'll just whip, whip, whip. I've shown this in other videos. You'll know because it goes from a liquid to pretty fluffy, and you'll pull out the beater and it will like stick. Nothing will fall off. It's not dripping or liquidy, and then you have your whipped cream. So you could definitely do either version if you're not a big fan of Cool Whip. But for today, to make it simple, and this is what the original recipe called for, we're going to go with Cool Whip. So I have the original Cool Whip, and you're going to use the whole container because look, this isn't really a lot. I mean, it's a whole thing of cream cheese, but we didn't add a lot of stuff to it. This is going to make the pie very fluffy and yummy and fill up that pie pan. So I'm going to put some of it in. And you don't even have to do it all at once if you want to kind of mix a little bit. So I'm taking maybe about half. It's hard to see. And then I'm going to start folding. So I'm going to angle the camera down for a minute so you guys can see what I mean by folding. Okay, so I'm starting at the bottom and I'm flipping it over. Starting at the bottom, flipping it over. And you just kind of keep stirring, keep flipping. And it takes a little time, so we have to be patient. And you just kind of keep rotating. You can go the other direction if you want, because there's a lot of green on the bottom, and that's why we go bottom to top, because you want to get all of those ingredients from the bottom. And even though my cream cheese layer was quite green, as I'm adding all of this, you can see it's very much turning into a light green now, because that's just that Cool Whip factor. The white from the Cool Whip is changing that. So again, flip. There we go. And I can see that it's mixing in. I'm going to grab a little more of the Cool Whip. Okay, so folding again, we're almost done with that. You can see this nice light green color. And that Cool Whip or that whipped cream is going to tone down the cream cheese flavor. And you have the mint flavor. Oh, another interesting point. If you want to try just the 1/4 teaspoon of mint and it's not enough, you could definitely add the mint at this stage. You just have to really be careful and take your time to mix it in. I mean, it's better if it's at the earlier stage when I did it with the cream cheese, but if you're really missing it. However, we are going to add the Andes mint candy. So if you really want more mint flavor, that's another spot that you can add it. Okay, so I can tell I'm not almost done, but there's like a white streak, so that means a little more flipping, folding, folding. Like that. It's just really rotating over and over again, but in a gentle way. Okay, awesome. So there's not too many ingredients left. We have our chocolate chips, which we'll talk about in a second, and the Andes mint candy. Let's see. I want to read a quick story because I think we have a couple minutes. I can do that. We have the time. And then we will finish up the pie, which, like I said, we're in the home stretch now. But this is a really cute story. It's kind of fun because it kind of ties in. It's called Payton Picks the Perfect Pie. Now, this is a Thanksgiving story, but it's all about pie. So since we're doing pie today, I wanted to read that to you guys. I'm going to get out of the frame and make sure that everybody can see the pages really well, and then I'll pop back in. So Payton Picks the Perfect Pie, a Thanksgiving celebration by Jack Bishop, illustrated by Michelle Me Nutter. Oh man, look at these pies, you guys. Love it. Payton is particular, but she's not picky. Grown-ups use that word a lot. Picky, picky, picky. It's never a good thing. And it's not fair. Payton likes dogs and cats, scooters and bikes, pools and beaches. She's not picky. Payton likes to try new things. She learned all about long division in math class. It was hard at first, but now it's fun, like solving a puzzle. She just started playing the saxophone. She remembers to practice every day and enjoys it, as long as her dog, Mila, doesn't howl. And Payton loves sports. Every sport. Payton even likes dodgeball. And who likes dodgeball? But Payton is particular about food. She doesn't like it when two foods touch on her plate. She doesn't like green foods or orange foods or red foods. She doesn't like foods that are gooey or gummy, sticky or slimy, frosted or flaky. And she most definitely doesn't like chunky or lumpy. Okay, friends, that sounds like a lot of things that are a no for Payton. And you can tell from her face, right? But lately, Payton has been thinking a lot about food. Her parents, Penny and Peter, love to cook. They never say it, but Payton wonders if they would like her to be, well, less particular about food. Peyton's parents host Thanksgiving each year and ask guests to bring pie. Everyone is always so happy during the holiday, surrounded by people they love and food they enjoy. Not Peyton, though. She loves her family, but the food is so green, so lumpy, and so flaky. I'm going to change this year, Peyton tells Mila. I'm going to try all the food. Mila gives Peyton a quizzical look. I think she's kind of questioning that, you guys. Okay, not all the food, says Peyton, with a shudder, thinking about the lumpy gravy. How about I try one new thing? Peyton hears her mother singing as she rolls out pie dough. I'll try pie, Peyton exclaims. On Thanksgiving morning, Peyton helps her mom weave strips of pie dough into a pretty top. The small holes allow juice from the apples to evaporate, Penny says. That's why my crust is so flaky. Ooh, Peyton tries to pretend she didn't hear the word flaky. Remember, friends, that's not one of her favorites. She looks over at Dad. Dad, do you need any help? Dad's okay, though. He doesn't need any help. The first guests are here. It's Uncle Sherwood and Uncle Mark. Peyton is excited and a little nervous to see all the different pies. We've brought our famous lemon chess pie, says Uncle Mark. I like checkers better than chess, Peyton whispers to Mila. Then she asks her uncles, what does this pie have to do with playing chess? Uncle Sherwood is a history buff. This recipe dates back several hundred years to England. The original name was chess pie because the yellow filling sets up firm like a chess piece. Chess in the pie? She's concerned. That sounds lumpy and sticky. Don't worry, says Uncle Mark. There's no cheese in our pie, just lemon, sugar, cornmeal, butter, and eggs. When the next guest arrives, Peyton is in the kitchen. She runs to hug Maria Alvarez, a social studies teacher at her school. Peyton, don't crush my ruffled milk pie. Ruffled what? Peyton asks her favorite teacher. I first had this pie in Greece, explains Miss Alvarez. It's made with thin sheets of phyllo dough that are shaped into ruffles. A sweetened egg custard is poured over the phyllo, and the pie is baked until it's crisp and the custard wiggles. Oh no, Peyton whispers. A pie that wiggles. And aren't ruffles for dresses? There's a knock at the back door, and Peyton and Mila run to greet the neighbors. Bonjour, Peyton, says Mrs. Macaroon. Please take my plum galette. Galette, says Peyton. Oui, Peyton, exclaims Madeline, who is Peyton's grade. A galette is a rustic French tart. You arrange sliced plums on the dough, fold over the edges, and bake, and voila. Don't forget the candied violets, adds Mrs. Macaroon, on your mother's cinnamon whipped cream. Peyton looks over to Mila and says, flowers made into candies, whipped cream with cinnamon. Finding a pie plan is going to be harder than I thought. At the table, Peyton takes 2 slices of turkey, white meat of course, and no skin, and no thanks to lumpy gravy. A fluffy roll sits next to her, but not touching the turkey. She adds a tidy scoop of mashed potatoes. She gently clinks a fork against the side of her glass, and the guests quiet down. Peter, Peyton, and I are so grateful you could share this special day with us. We celebrate with food, but having you all around our table is the real treat. Ooh, finally pie time. There are big ones and small ones, tall ones and short ones, red ones and yellow ones, and is that even a green one? But someone's missing and the doorbell rings. Aunt Polly strides into the house holding 2 large frosty containers. I don't bake pie, she calls out. I bought something even better, ice cream. I didn't know you could put ice cream on pie, Peyton says. Of course you can. It's called pie a la mode. The truth is pie is just okay, but add ice cream and it's divine. Peyton is suddenly feeling braver. She likes ice cream, particularly vanilla. She takes a bite of her mom's apple pie. The pie is a little lumpy and a little flaky, but it doesn't seem as scary. She takes another bite, then another. I didn't think I liked pie, but I guess I do. Sometimes when we think we don't like something, we just have to look at it in a different way, says her aunt. If all else fails, just add ice cream. I like your apple pie, Mom, says Peyton. Penny looks surprised. Happy but surprised. Peyton thinks for a moment and asks, "Can I try another?" "I'm so proud of you, Peyton. Which pie do you want?" "Chess pie, please. And do you think Uncle Sherwood might teach me some chess moves? Maybe I would like chess if I gave it another try." He raises his glass and clinks the fork. "Here's to pie, especially a la mode." The end. So I really like that story because Peyton is nervous to try new things, but she does. And sometimes I always tell people, just try a little bit. You never know what you're missing until you try it. Okay, so we're almost done with the pie. We have our filling. We're going to add our chocolate chips. Yay. So the recipe calls for a half a cup. Again, friends, I'm going to see what a half a cup looks like. I'm using my 1 cup, and I filled it about halfway. We're going to put those in. But this is, again, kind of a by taste, by feel thing. So I'm going to mix them in, kind of folding them. We want them kind of all evenly through the green mint filling. And to me, I can already tell there's just not a ton. It's there, but it's not enough. So I'm going to add a little more. Again, this is just my opinion. Okay, so I'm adding a lot more. I'm adding another half cup. I'm going to dump them all in, and we'll see how that looks. I'll show you guys in 1 minute. But basically, I am stirring it in. And now they kind of are mini chips, so they kind of disappear, but they are in there. Okay, and then really quick, because I know we're almost out of time, we're going to take just a couple of Andes mint candies, and these are for garnish, meaning more for decoration. I'm going to grab a plate, though. This is something the kids can help you with for sure. I'm going to unwrap a couple candies and put them on the plate. And essentially, we just want to break them into pieces. And they're going to be on the very top of the pie to make it look pretty. That's what garnish does, right? It adds a little bit to make it look a little bit more fancy. Oh, and Minerva Romero, hello. Hello, hello, thanks for joining us. And we have Brian too. Okay, so I have my candies on the plate. I'm actually just going to use my hands and I can just break them up. So the nice thing about that, parents, is you can have the kids just use their hands. Definitely a butter knife would work, so we don't have to worry about a sharp knife. If you have older kids and want to kind of practice the sharp knife skills, feel free to go for it. Again, the amount of this is up to you. I did like 4 candies. I might end up doing a little more, but I just want to give you guys an idea. I think I'm going to do 1 more, and then we'll fill the crust, and that's it. Okay, so I hope you guys have fun over the holidays, and if you have any special treats and have family time or friend time, let me grab the crust really quick. Okay, so the crust has been setting in my freezer. So now I'm going to take the filling and put it into the pie crust. Let me angle it down a little so you guys can see. So we're going to just fill up this pie crust with the filling. Smooth it out a little bit to make it look nice and all official. And again, if you do if you do this, I would love it if you emailed me or put it in the comments. My email is kidspace@gailborden.info. We love, I can tell you, all my friends and coworkers to get emails from families about projects you've done and classes that you've attended or programs you've seen. If you try a new version that I didn't think of, which I love, creativity and cooking, let me know. Did it turn out? Okay, so there is the pie. And then just for the pretty factor, I'm going to add the garnish. We're just going to kind of sprinkle it around. Ta-da! And that is our no-bake mint chip pie. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you try it. If you don't try this pie, I hope you have fun over the holidays baking with someone, loved ones, neighbors. It's a great way to get together and visit and have fun and then eat the result at the end of the visit. Please feel free to leave comments if you enjoyed it. Send us photos, register for programs, and we look forward to seeing you in the building soon. Thank you so much, you guys. Have a wonderful weekend. Take care.